I am a keynote speaker, voice educator, and communication consultant for law firms, sales teams, and corporations. I performed over 500 one-on-one coaching sessions on vocal mastery, confidence, leadership, neuroscience, and self-expression over the past 4 years. Currently, I'm an advisor for a law degree textbook, Effective Communication, with law professor Michael Maslanka, published by West Academics. That'll be coming out in 2026 and is to support the next gen bar exam, which will be more focused on communication skills. I also have a CLE accredited course by the Austin Bar. Now, those are the things I'm sure you care about, but the things that really make me an expert in the voice is that I've been studying the voice since I'm 6 years old. At 6 years old, my mother and father put me in soccer. And on that soccer field, I put on a show. And so the soccer coach said, get that kid in theater. And in the theater, I stayed for 20 years and dedicated my life to mastering the stage, to mastering effective communication skills in an instant. I did the math last night. I used ChatGPT and we did some math, and I have around 9,300 hours of training in the best performance techniques in the entire world. From Shakespeare to speech level singing, to Meisner, Alexander, Feldenkrais, Linklater. And it wasn't until I became a coach and started moving into that world that I learned, oh, wait a second, all of these performance techniques, they transfer over into the business world. They transfer into the interpersonal communication world. They transfer to sales. Many executives learn to take improv. Why? Because it teaches us how to be on our feet, how to say yes, how to be a stronger leader. And so I've taken all of these years of performance and having to create a strong connection with my audience in under 10 seconds, because that's what the audition process is. You've got 10 seconds or less to make an impression. And I've broken down the science of it and then taught it over and over and over again. And now I'm bringing it to you today. And because this is fun and a lot of people ask me about it when they see my site, I was a Barbra Streisand impersonator and cruise director and had a very successful musical theater career until I decided that, I would like to find something that feels more authentic than playing somebody else on stage. And that's how I got here. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the science of the voice, how your vocal tone impacts perception, trust, and connection in clients and in interpersonal conversations, how to be adaptable, the power of adaptability or code switching. We won't get into that definition so much today, but being able to go into different places and speak to that audience specifically. The musical tonality technique, this is my trademarked method, and it's the process of using voice modulation to boost authority, engagement, and EQ. And I'm going to break down a little bit of that today. And then I'm going to leave you here today with practical tools. Something you can implement at the end of this call today that's going to completely change the way you think about your voice and the voices of the people around you. And it's going to give you instant results. So at the end of this, you're going, oh my goodness, we need to bring Sammi in because I cannot listen to this for one more day. All right. We're going to break down what the sounds of confidence are, what the sounds of empathy are. Here's the nuts and bolts of it. You don't get paid for what you know. You get paid for what you communicate. I'm going to repeat that on purpose. You don't get paid for what you know. You get paid for what you communicate. Are there any marketing directors on here? Anybody who knows what it's like to be in marketing or in business development, put a 3 in the chat if you've done any kind of sales, marketing, or business development. Because then you know firsthand, it doesn't matter what you know, it matters how you sell it. You get paid for what you communicate. Unfortunately, over 80% of client dissatisfaction comes from poor communication. Law firms risk losing up to 20% of clients annually due to communication gaps. And improved communication can lead to 30% increase in productivity and efficiency, which I'm all about efficiency. I'm all about get straight to the point, do it with as much empathy as possible so people actually receive it, and let's get more work done and make more money. Employees with strong communication skills are 25% more likely to exceed performance goals. And then this was what set me off a few years ago and made me go, okay, I need to dive into the science behind this, is that individuals with lower vocal tones are reported to have higher incomes and be perceived as more trustworthy and authoritative. Really powerful. especially there's many women on this call. I work with a lot of women on how do you use your voice to be seen and heard in a room full of men without being perceived as bossy. And that's really, really important. It's the same for men. How do you be perceived as an authority without sounding arrogant? And we'll break down that later. Furthermore, you don't get paid for what you know. You get paid for how people experience you. So it's not just about what you communicate, it's how people are receiving your communication, which is key. And this is where learning emotional intelligence comes into play. There's a study that came out that 38% of communication is received by tone alone. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. How many people have heard that from their partners? Put a 4 in the comments if anyone's ever told you, or if you've ever said, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. About a year ago, I told my friend what I was doing, and he said, oh, you're teaching tonality. And I went, wait a second, everything makes sense. Because to me, I'm just going, oh, but it's their voice, their voice, their voice. But there's been quite a few salespeople over the past few years that have made the verbiage, the language tonality really popular, which so they paved the way for this to be effective. Only 7% of communication is received through words. Only 7%. So you can work on those words all the time. I worked on this presentation a bunch, but I know that it's how I go about it that's going to keep your attention. If I did this whole thing really monotone, you'd all be falling asleep within 3 seconds, and I wouldn't be proving my point of teaching tonality anyway. And then 55% of communication is shown through facial expressions. Your voice is what determines if people trust you. Well, why is that? What does your voice say about you? I'd love to know in the comments. Let me know. What does your voice say about you? What are some things that a voice can tell the audience? And I have a list here, but I'd love to know what what your perception already is. What does your voice say about you? Now, we have some people in here who are from New York. So we already know that your voice tells you where you're from, right? You're loud. Your voice tells you that you're loud, Lisa. New York, authoritative, great. Whether you're confident or insecure, if you're irritated, it's great. Emotional, your mood, exactly. So here's just a few. Keep going. I love it. If you're caring, your voice tells people what your social background is, where you're from, your education level, how educated you are, your emotional state, right? If your mood, if you're caring, if you're irritated. Your voice shows people your emotional intelligence, because who's heard the term tone deaf, right? Oh, they're tone deaf. They just can't tell that the person in front of them is about to cry. So our voice tells people, oh, do you have a high EQ? Your trustworthiness. That's why politicians, there's a lot of videos right now going about politicians. I keep that out of my work on purpose, but it's really important to notice how politicians can go from audience to audience and audience and switch the way they sound. That's because each audience wants to know that that politician can relate to them. So your voice tells us if you're trustworthy and if we can relate to you or not. I read an article a few years ago, and it's funny, it just popped into my head now, about Texas attorneys who learned how to modulate their voice based off of where the judge was from, so that the judge would be more likely to trust them. I don't know if you can decide if it's ethical or not. I think it's incredibly strategic and intelligent. It also tells us your personality traits. Anything else coming up about what your voice can tell about you? Personality traits. And so tonality could make or break the way that your employees confidently navigate high stakes negotiations. I don't know why this is the order it popped up in, but that's okay. Confidently navigate high stakes negotiations. It could affect how they build trust with clients, which translates into loyalty and referrals. It could affect how they win over judges and juries, and it can affect how they manage productivity and energy levels, because secrets out, your voice is the original Xanax. Funny. Great. And who knew that you had access to a Xanax in your pocket or in your body at all times? And so here are some personality traits we're going to be playing with on this call. I'd love to know which one through 5, is one that you're seeing the most of right now. We have the introverted genius. They're brilliant. They're so good at what they do. And you keep their office far away from your clients because they're very monotone or because they can't make eye contact. And they make it's very difficult for your business development team or your marketing team to get them to represent your firm. In fact, you're not really sure you want to because the client is not going to want to talk to them. We have the uninterested receptionist who I've worked with over and over again. They sound bored or like they hate their job or like they're there and they're going to do what they need to do, but there's no fire lit under them to really make a strong client experience as soon as they pick up the phone. And guess what? Your clients, they're calling the receptionist. They're not calling you. That receptionist is the first person that they speak to, the first person representing your firm. And then we all know this, the overconfident attorney, right? We all know this, or somebody who might sound overconfident or might sound loud or might sound angry, but isn't really, it's just what their voice is showing. We have the up and coming rainmaker, that person who just came in, maybe they're a baby attorney and you're going, man, let's cultivate this person. Let's bring them up. Let's give them the leadership skills to stay with us and represent us over and over again for years to come. And then we have the burned out manager, which I'm sure a few of you are. I understand you work so hard in what you do. Law firms are not easy. I'm surrounded by attorneys and law firms. My mother's a legal recruiter. My sister's an attorney, and attorneys have just been finding me as a voice coach for about 2 years now, which is why we're here. And we have the burned out manager who might sound disinterested, who might sound tired, and who wants to show empathy, who wants to be there, but has no idea that their voice is showing otherwise, which makes it harder for people to come to you, which makes it harder for people to relate to you, and it makes it harder for you to do your job. And I want to make your job really easy. That's the whole point of effective communication. Let's make your job so much easier. So how do we do this? What is this unique method for helping to make this easier for you, to turn these people into A-player rainmakers all around? My method is called musical tonality, and it is a combination of the best theatrical techniques in the world for effective speaking. It's a combination of using Shakespeare for cadence, rhythm, and for giving a melody of the speaking voice combined with practical speech level singing, which is the method that I learned, and I can sing pretty much anything I want to thanks to my education. And it is as well as Alexander technique, Feldenkrais. Some of you might know this, some of you might not, that's okay. The point is I'm bringing together I'm 30 years old. I started at 6, 24 years of experience into the corporate world, combined with the 4 years of psychology work that I've done on one-on-one coaching with my words and my core language upgrade certification, which I'm not talking about too much, but we do focus on in the longer term consulting, we do focus on what words as well, but the tone is really where you're going to get the best bang for your buck immediately in one session. So what can musical tonality do? It can help you boost your public speaking and presentation skills with vocal control, articulation, emotional expression. And you'll notice I'm giving examples of all of this as I go. Feel free to pick up on the nuances of my voice as we go. And time-tested techniques to make you more engaging and persuasive with a commanding authority. It also teaches you how to read the room and detect subtle communication skills, because the foundation of acting, the foundation of the best actors in the world is that acting is reacting. So speaking is actually about listening. It teaches emotional intelligence. And so by learning musical tonality, learning about the details and the melodies of the voice, we're able to teach how to pick up on other people's emotional state, which raises your employees' emotional intelligence and supports them in having a leg up the competitive edge in negotiations and the competitive edge in mediation and the competitive edge in really anything that they want to do, because communication's at the forefront. What's really cool about this is I have a meeting on Friday. It's my second meeting with a team of neuroscientists who have developed a personality test for company culture, to detect the health of a company culture. And we're going to see if we can trace how my work does improve emotional intelligence over time. I'm very excited about that because I wanted to go to grad school, but I don't need to go to grad school. I can work with people who are the scientists and we can all do this together. So that will also be a part of my packaging moving forward. We're in the works of seeing how that could work. And then you can use your voice. As I said, your voice is your original Xanax. It is because when we use our voice in certain ways, we activate our rest and digest nerve in our body. So you can calm yourself. That's why when we're stressed, many people hum or sing. And that's why singing to a baby works. A lot of people, sound medicine is really up and coming at the moment. Well, you are the original sound. So you can use your voice to keep calm, to keep composed, to reduce stress, to build emotional resilience and stay calm in high pressure situations. The pressure is on when it comes to billable hours. The pressure is on when it comes to what attorneys do. This one subtle change in how you use your voice can completely reframe anxiety, reduce burnout, and improve productivity across all levels. And this combines neuroscience and vocal practices to project composure. And this is also really great if you have new attorneys, associates who you want to get them ready to go as fast as possible. You want to shorten that onboarding process, take out as many reps as it takes for them to get really good. This is the work that will get them there faster. So what's the process for getting there? I call this my process from monotone to moneymaker, and that's the name of the workshop. It's a 4-step process, and step 1 is you need to be aware. You can't change anything if you're not aware of it. If you ignore the problem will be there. So this is where we identify your voice's natural melodies and then the effect that they have on the listener. Number 2 is we play with your voice. And this is where I whisper to your introverted employees. I am a bit of an introvert whisperer, getting them out of their shells and able to use the full range of their voice. This works as well for those who are incredibly extroverted and finding new ways to speak that they just don't currently know how to do, because your voice is a behavior. Your voice is a behavior that you learned, and this is about relearning that behavior. Number 3, listen and adapt. So once we have awareness and once we're able to play with the full range of your voice, then we can learn how to listen with more detail to the person in front of us and listen to what's happening with their vocal melodies and vocal cues. This is the part where people say, Sammi, are you a mind reader? And I say, no, I'm reading your voice. Your voice just told me you're not confident. Your voice just told me you're hesitant. Your voice just told me you're lying. Your voice just told me you're really confident about that part, but only that part. And so by teaching this, your team will be able, by learning this, your team will be able to pick up on these subtle cues that they might not before. You can tell someone's bluff pretty quickly. And finally, how to control the room. And this is where we use stage techniques to master composure in tense situation and be the authority by commanding presence. All right, my friends. All right, this is the fun part. This is the part that I love to teach over and over and over and over and over again. And it's a little bit of an interaction with you. So can you please put a 5 in the comments if you are willing to make a little bit of noise with me? I just want to know, who here will make some noise? Who here will make some noise? It's a little weird at work sometimes. So if you're in the office, I get it. Put a 5 in the comments if you're willing to make some noise. Put a 6 if you're like, I can't, but I'm with you. Can't make noise, but I'm with you. Okay, cool. Thank you, Lucy. I appreciate the authenticity. We've got a lot of 6s. Okay, that's fine. So you can listen, you'll be able to pay attention, and then I invite you to go try this at home. Please, please try all of this at home. If we never work together after this session, at least this will have a ripple effect for you to go pass this on. My whole goal is having this ripple effect of people being more aware of how their voice affects others in the world and themselves. So this is the 5 tones of the voice based off of the Chinese medicine 5-element theory. And this is Barbara McAfee's work. I've taken her class, I've worked with her, and I fell in love with this work because it took me away from teaching this in a really complicated way to being super practical immediately. I want you to have results in 10 minutes of working with me. That's my goal. My goal is efficiency. How can this work incredibly quickly? So I'm going to demonstrate each of these tones. One question I get is people say, do I have this tone or that tone? And my answer is going to be learn how to have all of them. Learn how to have all of them for various situations to get what you want. I teach people how to use their voice to get what you want, and this is how you do it. So we're going to start with earth. Earth is grounded. We said earlier that people with lower vocal tones tend to make more money, have higher salaries. Earth is grounded. You're going to use earth when you want to establish authority, when you're working with a difficult judge, when you need to set boundaries, when you want to sound grounded. Now, the shadow side of earth is that you can sound unkind. As many people, each of one of these has a shadow side. So earth is what I work with a lot of women to find. A lot of women are finding their earth voice. Now, I added an extra element because we live in America where vocal fry is a thing, and this is mud. It's lazy, it's uninterested, or it's down here. Like if I want to be a woman who's lazy and uninterested and I don't really care, that's mud, right? It's mud, it's stuck. No one really wants to listen to that. You feel like you're like trudging through jello, right? And next we have air. Air is approachable. Air is lighthearted. It's childlike, but you can be seen as an airhead. I've worked with many people who have this air voice and they come to me saying, people talk over me. And I say, yes, it's because you're all air. Men can also have air voices. Air, it would just sound, it's lighter. There's more breath in it. Yes, hello. I have a friend named Rain, and he sent me a message the other day. Hey, Sammy, I want to invite you to this blah, 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 blah. And I went, I imagine it's really hard for people to take you seriously. I imagine that that's something you deal with on a daily basis because of your voice, because of the tone you're using. You're telling me that it's all air. You're telling me you're not grounded just by your voice. And then we have water. Water symbolizes empathy. I'm going to use water when I'm in a mediation, when I want calm, when I'm dealing with somebody who has a lot of fire in their voice. I know that I need to use water more often because I have a lot of fire. However, water is boring. Water is what will put people to sleep in a presentation. So water has a place, but it is not for all the time. And we have fire. Fire is action and confidence and motivation. I am all fire. I am as fire as it gets. I am so excited to be alive. I just exude fire, which can also be perceived as anger. And that's where, when we get back into those personalities, these play a role. I often say to people, don't fight fire with fire. If you have a managing partner, if you have an employee or a client who's giving you fire, bring in water and earth. And notice that they'll calm down. And that's where the science of this comes in. That's where the quantum acoustics comes in, because when you lower your tone, they're going to start matching your tone rather than you each fighting each other. Science is cool, y'all. All right. And then finally, we have metal. And metal is clarity. It's direct. It projects. It gets straight to the point. And it's kind of annoying sometimes. Fran Drescher is very metal, right? New Yorkers have a lot of metal in their voice. And I believe that that's one reason why New York is a hustle culture. So a lot of you have a lot of metal. My mom said this to me last night. She said, am I a metal voice? And I said, yes. And she also has a lot of all of these dynamics. She runs the whole gambit of musical tonality. She uses all of them. And that's why she's so engaging. Here are some famous voices. Here are some famous voices that we have. We have James Earl Jones, who has this grounded both earth and water. He uses his vowels to get attention and take up space. Oh, R.I.P. Love that man. And then we have Kristen Chenoweth. Whenever I see someone less fortunate than I, and she always plays those roles, those bubbly, high-pitched, don't take me seriously, I'm an airhead role, right? And so we can recognize where these sounds are in real life in our actors. And then we have Matthew McConaughey, all right, where he's using fire and water, right? He shows confidence. He shows that he is an authority, but it's laid back. And he's got empathy. So we trust him. We lean into him. He plays for many years, he played a strong romantic lead. And because he had those vowels, that water, that really showed empathy. Do you have any questions so far? Please put them in the comments. I love answering questions, especially because I'm not working with you all right now. The goal, and I share this later, but the goal of where this work comes in is when I work with somebody and everybody watches. That is what I've received. I've received testimonial after testimonial that says, I love watching you work with people because I learned so much. Now, back to these personalities in your office. The introverted genius. Where do we think the introverted genius falls in the 5 elements? So we have the introverted genius. Which of the 5 elements would they be using mostly? I want to make sure that we're great on time. I'll get you all out of here early. Mud. Yeah, totally. They could absolutely be using mud. Mud, they might be using a lot of air, or they might be using a lot of water and staying in their lane and right in this boring flowing state, and you're falling asleep just listening. So for them, I'm actually going to have them use more metal. I'm going to bring the introverted genius and I'm going to give them more metal to be more direct. Fire might be too much for them at first. It's really intense when you go from being introverted to, I need to take up all the space. That's a little bit too much. How do we just allow them to be a bit more direct and clear and just a little bit more excited? Sending sound through the metal has been pretty powerful and it works instantly. The uninterested receptionist might also be mud, might also be water. Overconfident attorney. This is an easy answer. What do you think, my friends? What do you think the overconfident attorney tends to lean towards?
I don't know.
I think somebody just came. I don't know if you were answering the question or if if you accidentally came off mute. So the overconfident attorney, fire. Thank you, Alexa. Yes, overconfident attorney will tend to have more fire. So the way you work with them is not by giving them more fire, although that's tempting, right? We want to fight fire with fire. We're all like, no, I can be this. I can be this. We want to give them water. We want to calm them down. So we're going to give them earth and water. And then the up and coming rainmaker. This could be anything. A lot of times they're actually more introverted and don't know if they're not overconfident. I've worked with, and I'll share that story in a minute. And then we have the burnt out manager, which might be a bit more mud, might be a bit more water. So bringing a little bit more fire into their day, a little bit more fire into their energy to bring them back to life, right? This is, we're aiming for a marathon here. So I put this into work. I put this into practice. I have worked with real law firms and real attorneys in this and seen dramatic results. And when I say dramatic, I mean absolutely dramatic. And this testimonial shares it. This was a law firm that worked with me on an 8-week intensive called Charismatic Communication Program. The week before they started, when I got onto the discovery call with the managing partner, he said, we're not able to open new cases. We're doing marketing. I don't know what's wrong. I just want to turn my lead attorney into a superstar. I really just want to make her my rainmaker. And that's what we did. Within 2 weeks, they opened 20 new cases, and then saved over $10,000 in a difficult client who asked for a return. All they did was change the tone of their voice and match the angry client. So match the angry client's tone with water to calm them down and make them feel heard through their tone without backing down on their feet. So it supported their negotiation tactics immediately. Bonus is he said that he has a new buy-in on how to communicate with clients more effectively. His entire team was on board because entire team went through the training, from his receptionist to his marketing team to his client services team. I don't remember what their titles are right now. They're more confident. It's improved their overall productivity. And then he sent me an email last week and said, I had to get in front of the most difficult judge in Dallas. And I was the only person he listened to that day. And all I did were 2 things. One is I lowered my tone to earth, like you suggested, because he's all fire. He's an overconfident attorney. He's all fire. And so instead, he lowered it to earth, because that judge is used to hearing overconfident attorneys all day. It was refreshing to hear groundedness and stability from an attorney. And it was the first time he was able to get the judge on board. And one other tactic, which I'll save for another time. And here's another attorney who I worked with who went through this 8-week intensive in a one-on-one fashion. She leads a team of paralegals and she's incredibly shy. She lacks confidence. She's 4'11". So when she goes to meet clients, they look right over her head and they say, "Where's the attorney?" And she says, "I'm the attorney." But it came out as, "I'm the attorney." And so we worked on how does she establish authority from the moment she walks up to them. "Hello, I am the attorney here," versus "I'm the attorney." Makes a massive difference. She was able to see instant results with that. She's learned how to take control of a room and speak with an authority. And I really believe she'll just be a long-term, a beautiful attorney to watch and watch her grow. She was just asked, she sent me an email a few days ago as well. She and I actually have 2 more sessions together, that she was asked to speak at a law school, something she never even thought was possible, but because she's been getting out of her shell and working with her marketing team, she's been getting on YouTube and doing the TikToks that they're asking her to do, which before she said no. And so now she's getting out of her shell and getting on there. And now it's supporting her personal career as well and making her somebody that the team can rely on to drive business for the firm and bring in a bigger book. And then here's some case studies and real results from my seminars and lunch and learns. Like I said, I've taught this dozens of times. I teach a monthly class at a startup innovator in Austin, Texas. I've heard it's invaluable communication strategies, practical and beneficial, invaluable once again. And I love this testimonial. The best part is watching her work with other people. And that's when it all clicked and I learned the most. And so I ask you, what if your team could confidently navigate high stakes negotiations without a doubt? What if they could improve their emotional intelligence? How much easier would your life be if all of your attorneys had a higher emotional intelligence? What if they could win over even the most difficult judges, juries, and clients? What if they could strengthen client relationships, which translates to long-term loyalty and referrals for the firm? And what if through all of this and all of the monetary results, you could also increase productivity and your team satisfaction because everyone's communicating more effectively and everyone has this tool for how to be happier and how to regulate their emotions through their voice and how to communicate? Well, you can give your team the voice of authority. The magic happens when I work with your team. Yes, me talking at you is all well and good, but the real magic happens when I'm working with you and I'm empathetically and empowering you to explore new parts of your voice. And I do this in a few different ways. It's completely bespoke to your needs and your company. I often say when I start my classes, I'm pretty good at what I do, but I'm only as good as the amount of voices that I work with. And each voice is different. Each voice comes with a different background and a different story and a different goal. And so it is a completely bespoke experience. Although I teach the same things, once I'm working with your team, I'm working with that person there. I'm not standing up and saying, all right, this is what it is, go figure it out. I'm working with you to make them all A players. We do this through lunch and learns, associate retreats, or my 8-week intensive, my charismatic communication program. And I do this via Zoom and I do it online. I do it in person in Texas, but you're all in Florida. So it would be on Zoom because I'm staying in Texas. So if you come back to Florida, she says, I love Texas. If you schedule a call within 72 hours, just schedule the call and have a conversation. I'll give you a 20% discount on any of these offers that we create bespoke for you. And if you're not quite ready yet, that's okay. You can get my high stakes communication toolkit and learn how to master your voice to get to the yes. I'll send this to you all in an email afterwards. I'll also drop it in the, if it lets me drop it in the chat. I'll put the URL in a chat in a second. And you can also give this to any of your attorneys who might need it. You can send it in an email to them as well. I can give you an email script to send to them, how to use their voice so that they're on board with this as well. And over time, we can see what it's like to work together. So whichever you would like to go, whichever route you want to go down, whether it's book a call, like I said, within the next 72 hours, we'll give you 20% off if we just book the call. You can email Sammi@voiceexperts.com and we'll set up a conversation and see where it goes. If nothing else, you've all learned something really powerful that you can take with you today. And I really hope that we do work together to turn your monotone or even your getting there and your baby rainmakers into strong money makers. And so that your team can be more productive, more effective, and all around a better place to work. Do you have any questions?
No, Sammy, it's KJ, but actually accolades for you. This is fantastic. And I'm actually going to pass along to our folks, our marketing department. They suck. So I'm going to, they need some help there. But I am going to pass along to my folks because we do actually have our attorney retreat coming up. And you know what? It may be of interest to some of our, I really do believe that this could be of interest to a lot of our folks. It will be very, very helpful to a lot of our in-house folks. So kudos to you. Congratulations.
Thank you, KJ. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Indeed.